The idea of post-apocalyptic stories seems almost counterintuitive, as they tell of what happens after all of the significant actions have occurred. They tell the stories after the end of the world or the end of civilized humanity. Despite this odd approach to storytelling, post-apocalyptic fiction is one of my absolute favorite genres, and in today's video I will explore a few different stories that fit into this amazing genre. To get us started, I want to discuss Fallout. If it isn't obvious by my channel name, I'm an extremely big fan of Fallout, and I think it just has an amazing setting and world. Fallout is mainly a set of different stories set after the year 2077. It's a post-apocalyptic world and setting because on October 23rd, 2077, there was a massive nuclear exchange, and this nuclear exchange was an end-of-the-world event, and the very few survivors left either lived on the surface and were mutated, or were some of the lucky few that were sent into vaults and actually got to live safe lives underground, unmutated. While I could spend this whole video exploring the concepts of Fallout and the complexity of the world it established before and after the Great War, as they call it, I just want to acknowledge how great of a post-apocalyptic story Fallout is. One of the most significant aspects that brings its greatness out is the almost futuristic 80s and 90s setting that is established to have existed before a nuclear Armageddon occurred, and how they use this pre-apocalyptic setting to allow really neat science fiction concepts. Since it is set after 2077, it can keep a science fiction element to it with these crazy technologies like laser and plasma weapons and power armor, even after humanity ends itself with its folly. Another aspect Fallout uses that I want to appreciate is the use of time. In the games, one of the craziest concepts is that the individuals living in the post-apocalypse treat destroyed civilizations as if they were ancient remains, because for them, they are ancient remains. At minimum, the stories are usually set at least 100 years after the Great War or nuclear exchange. So most individuals have no idea what living in a pre-apocalyptic world means. It seems foreign to them to consider peace and a non-irradiated, non-dangerous world. Following such a fantastic world and setting is really hard, but I want to dive into a story that laid many of the foundations for Fallout. This story is called The Postman. It is the story of a man who lives in a world that just ended to EMPs and bioweapons and barbarianism. The Postman is a fantastic example of how even in a post-apocalyptic setting, the most valuable thing you can offer people is hope for a better tomorrow. One thing I realized only while looking into these different post-apocalyptic settings was how the Postman and Fallout both heavily use the idea of having a futuristic, advanced civilization before the apocalypse to allow themselves the freedom to use science fiction aspects in the world with no more technological innovations. I believe this usage of fantastical science fiction with a dreary post-apocalyptic setting is what captivates me so much when it comes to these worlds and these settings. Following the theme of nuclear Armageddon, another fantastic Russian-based setting and world I love is the Metro 2033 books and games. The Metro 2033 is set in the Russian subway after a nuclear war. Quite a few different stories are involved in the setting, but I want to discuss the setting itself. It is set primarily in Moscow, and the story has themes of natural urges for war and power regarding humanity, and humanity's ability to come together when we need to face outside enemies. The theme I think Metro 2033 does best is the camaraderie of man when it comes to facing these dire situations together. While the subway and Metro stories is somewhat safe from the radiation and the monsters, the surface is almost a foreign planet after all of the nukes have destroyed the city above. The city of Moscow is just completely filled with this mutated alien life that wants to hunt and assumably eat all of the humans that come to the surface. With the small scale of the subway, part of the theme of Metro is that if the residents of Metro cannot help each other, it will end in them all perishing. Metro's setting does a fantastic job of exploring what divides humans into groups and how camaraderie is a natural human reaction when faced with dire odds. And part of what conveys these unique themes is how hostile the outside world has become to humanity, which was once the dominant species. I think this is one of the main aspects of the setting that sets it apart from other post-apocalyptic stories. The way the outside world is set up and described is just completely terrific, as it makes you feel like the characters in these stories are leaving almost self-prescribed space stations of sorts, and they're exploring this hostile planet. This is extremely extra emphasized with the gas mask filters that are required to breathe above ground because of how irradiated the air is, and if they don't have these filters, it will poison them. Moving on to another world with air that will take you out if you breathe it too long. Mad Max is one of my favorite post-apocalyptic movie settings. In the Mad Max setting and world, a societal collapse occurred due to war, critical resource shortages, and ecocide. One of the excellent parts of the setting is how it examines mankind's usage of land and resources. The idea that the post-apocalypse we see didn't come quickly is just completely fascinating, as it explores a world where the resources we take for granted dried up, and I think it does a fantastic job of taking these resources and showing how much value they hold when it comes to civilization and power. One thing I must mention when it comes to Mad Max is how well they use the desert setting. The heavy use of cars, dirt, and dust enhances the epicness and the brutality of the wasteland by an extreme amount. It really emphasizes the grittiness of the world that they live in. To sum up this video, post-apocalyptic stories are an absolutely wonderful way of telling stories. I think it's fascinating to break down some of the aspects of the ones that I've played through and that I've read, and it's fun to go in and find out which aspects are my favorite and to kind of explore them. If you haven't checked out any of these stories that I've mentioned, then I heavily recommend that if there are any of them that sparked your interest at least a little bit, that you go and you check them out. I think they're all amazing in their own right, and I think they're all classics in their own right, at least to me they are. And I want to leave you with a little question for you to leave in the comments below. But out of all of the settings and the worlds I mentioned, which one is your favorite? And if you didn't have a specific favorite one, which one kind of interested you the most? And I kind of want to know whether or not you're gonna check it out or not. But again, I want to thank you guys for watching my video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And if there is one of these stories that I mentioned that seemed really interesting and you'd want me to do a deep dive into it, feel free to leave a comment below, and I might end up making a video diving into it, because again, all of these stories are so freaking awesome and I could probably talk about them for days. And yeah, if there's one that really interests you, leave a comment and maybe I'll do a little video discussing it, and that'd be really fun. But yeah, I will see you guys in the next one, and thank you for watching.